bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Should be a fun show today. We are talking all about the Lakers and their playoff push. Obviously not a great night against the New Orleans Pelicans, but still plenty to break down as the Lakers are hoping to force their way into the playoffs and catch up to the Sacramento Kings and the LA Clippers. Before we dive into everything, quick shout out to our sponsors, betonline.ag. Use the promo code CLNS50 and get 50% back on your initial deposit, as well as Vivid Seats, which is the official ticket reseller of Lakers Nation. Head over to the Vivid Seats app on your phone. Use the promo code LakersNation in all caps. Get 10% off tickets to your next Lakers game. Joining me today is Aaron Larsuel of the official Lakers podcast. He's traveling with the team, going to give us some insight into what's going on with the Lakers right now, how they're trying to make this playoff push, whether or not we think that the young players are being unfairly targeted or unfairly analyzed by other fans and teams around the league. And he's going to tell us a little bit about what it's like to actually travel with the Lakers game to game. So fun conversation. Aaron, thanks so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so the Lakers, obviously people are not going to be too thrilled with what happened against the New Orleans Pelicans. No Anthony Davis. Lakers still come up short. Obviously, it was a frustrating one based on the reaction that I see online. People were very, very frustrated with that outcome, especially coming off of such a nice win over the Houston Rockets. What was it like around the team? What was the reaction like in the locker room for these guys to go and lose what really was a critical game for them?
Yeah, I think the best answer to that question is individuals, right? We talked about over the trade deadline and stuff, everybody having to get over the fact that maybe their names were mentioned. And my response to that and how it's similar to this is I think everybody handles it differently. They're all human beings and handle it differently. There was a lot of some guys were kind of down. But I think generally the team still feels like, and the guys feel like they have their work cut out for them. Their work is ahead of them. So it's not like all hope is lost, but I think the guys know what's at stake, and a lot of them were pretty disappointed and upset and angry and all the ways that you react to this sort of thing.
Yeah, on the Lakers Nation postgame show right after the game, we take in comments from fans, and I mean it was overwhelmingly negative. But I was trying to relay the point that yes, this was bad. This was a bad loss, but it's not over. It's not like they're done. I mean, they're still within striking distance. They still can make a run. Just their margin for error is getting smaller with each of these hiccups.
Yeah, and I guess part of the problem is you give back a lot of the goodwill and the good feeling of coming out of the break and then beating Houston. That was one of the big problems with the Atlanta loss was in Atlanta right before the break, was that in addition to not really having much margin for error, including that and the Cleveland loss at home and the Knicks loss at home, the Atlanta loss, really, you go in and there's 9 days until the next game, and it kind of shifts the narrative to a negative place. Coming out of the break, the Houston win undid a lot of that and had some good feelings, especially with it being New Orleans, Memphis, New Orleans coming up. And those are 3 games you feel like you can win or probably should win. And then you have a 4-game win streak out of the break and all of that. So I think the main thing last night did in a lot of ways was just kind of undo a lot of the goodwill from the Houston game. But no, it's not over yet. And, obviously mathematically, it's not. And the Lakers do have a very difficult schedule remaining. But part of the silver lining to that is the last 5 games are especially difficult. It's OKC, Golden State, maybe flip-flopped in that order. Then I believe the Clippers. And then the last 2 games are Utah and Portland. And a lot of those teams at that point, take the Clippers out of it, may not have a lot to fight for in the last, week to 10 days of the season. The Warriors will probably have the number 1 seed locked up. Utah should probably be in position, and Portland, I would imagine, will be locked in the last game of the season. So it's going to be a tough road, but I think the silver lining is that maybe the timing will work out well, where you're not getting the best effort from a lot of those guys. Although Anthony Davis didn't play last night due to rest, so right. that doesn't guarantee anything. And I think the other thing that was really frustrating for the guys last night is it was similar to the Indiana game in this way, which is that we were in town the night before. So we were in Indiana the night before the game, and Indiana had to play that night and then fly and then play the Lakers back to back, just like the Pelicans last night. We were in New Orleans before they were. They played a back-to-back and still were able to win and looked like they had more energy. So I think that was really one of the frustrating things.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that was something that when we looked at this game and we saw, okay, the Pelicans are on the second night of a back-to-back. Anthony Davis isn't playing. Everything suggests that the Lakers should win this game, but obviously it doesn't go their way. And you know what? I'm actually in the midst right now of writing a piece for LakersNation.com all about this.
Give me the preview.
Here's the preview, man. I'm going to break it down. So they, at this point, by my count, the Lakers have lost 12 games this season of their 30 losses were to non-playoff teams that are not going into the playoffs at this point, which is a really high number. The Sacramento Kings, that number is only 5, right? So they have lost a number of games that have left fans feeling like they should have won that game. And even with LeBron gone, still losing to, the Cavs and the Knicks and the Timberwolves and teams of that caliber. What do you attribute that to? These highs and lows we've seen. I mean, they beat the Warriors, they beat the Celtics, but then losing to these other teams, the up and down, there's been no consistency. Is there any rhyme or reason to that, or do you think it's just basketball, make or miss league, and kind of that's what it comes down to?
I don't think I think it's more nuanced than make or miss league, although right. I think a lot of that is true and a lot of that rings true in the NBA. But a lot of nights, like, last night, the Indiana you were talking about, but even, a lot of the losses against Atlanta and some of the, Cleveland and New York that you mentioned, I think the intensity and effort level has kind of waxed and waned at times. So I think that has had a lot to do with it. And the Lakers also, Steve, you mentioned the Warriors win, and of course the Houston win, and then winning in OKC without LeBron. I think a lot of that has to do with the Lakers seem to play up and down to their level of the competition a lot,
which they've done for years.
I think in this case, I think that has a lot to do with the team and the players that are dependent on most outside of LeBron are young guys still. And I think that's overlooked and forgotten. And, sometimes there's going to be some ups and downs with young guys as they develop. And I don't think the Lakers are a team yet, due to the fact that they're very young and all of the other guys that have been brought in. KCP's been here for 2 years, but LeBron, it's his first year, and Beasley, when he was here, was his first year with the team, and JaVale and Rondo and all of these guys. So to combine that with all of the injuries that the Lakers have suffered, I'm not sure the Lakers have really been able to figure out who they are yet. And, I know that online rotations, everybody thinks they can coach, and people are, complain about rotations.
Wait, you mean they can't?
Well, I don't know. Maybe some of them can, but I would say, in fairness to Luke and the staff, I don't know that the Lakers have really been able to figure out who they are yet, because they've had their entire roster together since Tyson Chandler came on board for exactly once in Sacramento. I think it was November 10th in Sacramento. And other than that, it's been pieces out and here and there. So I don't know that the Lakers have been able to develop the consistency and find out who they are. And I think that's a pretty big factor in the up and down nature of performances that you've seen.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the fact that they haven't had a full team there, that's a major factor. And I think that's one of the things that's overlooked. You mentioned people that are saying they can coach. And of course, it's easy to coach from the couch. It's easy yes. to say that's a terrible rotation and things like that. And you can dig into the analytics. And I'm sure there are mistakes being made from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a given, because you've got human beings involved. So there's going to be mistakes made. But do you think that there's too much emphasis being placed on that, maybe too much criticism being lobbed at the coaching staff at this point?
I do. And I mean, a lot of that is because of the, what I was just mentioning, that I don't know that the Lakers have been able to figure out who they are, and not having guys available. And you've seen it. At the beginning of the year, when the first handful of games, when JaVale McGee was off the floor, the defense was an absolute disaster. The offense was good. The defense was an absolute disaster. Tyson Chandler comes in, and among other reasons, the Lakers become one of the better defensive teams in the league. That's gone away again. And now the offense is a little bit better. So the up and down nature of the team. I mean, you can see it right there, and a lot of it has to do with injuries. Of course, as you said, some mistakes have been made, certainly, but I don't think that Luke has had a full deck of cards. The hand he's been dealt has not been great. But, of course, there's been some mistakes along the way. But I understand that's, it's a fan thing. That's what you're going to do. And it's right in front of you. It's some things are obvious, you think, and right in front of you. But I think Luke has been dealt a difficult hand here. So I think there's just kind of more nuance to the discussion than shockingly gets portrayed online.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much involved here from, one of the things that you can't see really is the chemistry, the interpersonal relationships between the guys that are out there and what that can do to how you perform out there on the floor. There's all these different intangibles. And I mean, we're hoping obviously the Lakers can really put things together and eventually make this nice push because I mean, as we've said many times, they were the number 4 seed not that long ago, back when LeBron was healthy before he got injured. So they've got the potential to do it. They just haven't quite been able to put everything together. I think the one comment that I've seen a lot of, and I'm hoping, Aaron, this is something you can address, but sure. I've seen a lot of people questioning whether or not the team truly understands how dire their situation is or how urgent their situation is. And LeBron James, after the game against the Pelicans, kind of called out some of the rest of the team about their lack of urgency. Do you think it's a lack of understanding, a lack of caring, or is it just coming across that way, which is more my thought, is that it's probably just coming across that way and for whatever reason. But I want to get your thoughts on that subject.
Well, LeBron makes an interesting point, and it's something that he's done before. He's talked about in his second. I think it was in the first year of his second trip. It was in the first year of his second trip back to Cleveland, and he kind of called out essentially Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, and it was earlier in the year, but about, these guys haven't done it before. They haven't been in the playoffs. And as I mentioned before, I think the guys that the Lakers are depending on the most are young guys that the facts are they haven't been in the playoffs before. And I don't know that you can fully understand what that means until you do it. A lot of teams, their first, second, third, even sometimes trip to the playoffs. It's kind of a shocking thing. It's a different thing for you. So I think it is one of those things that you have to experience. I can promise you it's not a lack of caring. I don't know that all of the guys know exactly what it's going to take because they haven't done it. So that's when you look to LeBron, you look to Rajon Rondo, you look to JaVale McGee, guys that have won championships. And I think it is incumbent on those guys to help the young guys understand what it's going to take. And LeBron and Rondo are both very vocal as leaders. But it is not a lack of caring, although, as I said, it looks like from the outside, I'm sure it looks like some of the effort is waxing and waning. So I can understand people feeling that way, but I can assure you it is not a lack of caring.
Yeah, these guys do. I mean, they want to win. They want to do well, but obviously there's been a lot of turmoil going on around the team. And you've got from trade rumors to everything else that's happening with injuries and all of that kind of stuff. That's a lot to deal with. That's a lot to overcome. There've been quite a few roadblocks here. We talked a little bit about kind of the perception around the team and how things were negative for the 9 days of the All-Star break. And you had the high of beating the Rockets and now the low of losing to the Pelicans. How critical is it heading into the offseason that they do wind up making the playoffs, if nothing else than just for the perception heading into the offseason around the team? In my mind, if you miss the playoffs, that's going to be a big negative heading into what's going to be an important offseason with a number of free agents they're going to be targeting and all sorts of other things going on in trade discussions and all that. It seems to me like making the playoffs is going to matter just for the air around the team and in the organization. I think that's going to be important.
I would say I would call it critical. I think it is critical that the Lakers make the playoffs for a couple reasons. One, that was the stated goal of everyone internally was, at a minimum, make the playoffs. This is going to be a playoff team. So for that reason, I think it'll be a huge disappointment if the Lakers do not make the playoffs. And the other reason is I am of the opinion that should the Lakers make the playoffs, there is definitely a chance to, the quote unquote make some noise. Look, I don't think the Lakers are going to beat the Warriors if it's the 1-8 matchup, but
Right.
I don't know that there's anyone else that I would favor against maybe OKC, but I'm not sure there's anybody else. Denver, we talked earlier about teams that haven't done it before. None of Denver's guys, well, not none of Denver's guys, but
most of them,
almost all of them, right?
Right.
Are in the same situation, haven't made the playoffs. So LeBron certainly isn't afraid of Denver. I think the Lakers would probably beat Denver. So if you can get up to 7, maybe you play Denver, and that can change it completely. It changes the narrative completely. If the Lakers are able to not only make the playoffs and win a round, who knows, maybe win 2 rounds. I think that sets the team up moving forward. You see some progress. And as you said, the narrative changes. So for the reason that it's everybody has said internally, from Jeannie and Magic and Rob Pelinka and Luke, and everybody has talked about making the playoffs from before the year even started. So for that reason, and then if the Lakers do make the playoffs, I think it may be a successful playoff run, depending on when you have to play the Warriors. I think for those 2 reasons, it's really critical that the Lakers make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. In a lot of ways, it's similar. I don't know. I don't know if you're a soccer guy or not, but I'm a big Galaxy guy, and so
I am indeed.
You are?
More Premier League. I'm a Liverpool.
Oh,
I think
all right.
we're supposed to call ourselves supporters, right?
Supporters,
in soccer.
Yep, supporters in soccer.
And watch this. Liverpool is my side. So I watched them. I watched them. There was the 0-0 draw
with Man U this morning.
Yeah, exactly. And Trudell's a big Man U guy, so we went back and forth with that a little bit as we were leaving. I got to watch the first half in the hotel in New Orleans, and then a little bit on the bus on the way to the plane. So I am a soccer guy. Sorry to hijack your analogy.
Oh, no. Hey, all good. I was watching that game, that match as well.
There you go. Right.
And I was hoping, I'm trying to get my 2.5-year-old to be into soccer, and I'm going, come on, please, something exciting happen here. And of course, no goals, 0-0.
Yes, and the Champions League game, Liverpool was also 0-0. So I don't know. My boys got to get some goals.
They got to get things going there. But the point I was going to make was that the LA Galaxy were in a similar spot this last season, where they've got Zlatan, they've got Jonathan Dos Santos, they've got a talented team, Ramon Alessandrini, all these players, and but they just missed out on the playoffs. In fact, they needed to win in their last game of the season against a bad team, and somehow they found a way. They were up 2-0 at halftime and found a way to lose, and so they missed out on the playoffs. But had they made it, there wasn't any team that they really we're scared of. They had some real potential to go far. So I think the Lakers are kind of in that similar position where if they can just get there, and if you can get up to 7, you just avoid the Warriors. That's when you see, I think, LeBron really, he's talked about flipping the switch and turning it on. You can tell he's not 100% yet, but if you can get him there, and you can get playoff LeBron, and you can get, hey, playoff Rondo. All we've heard is that playoff Rondo is a thing. If you can get all that, they have a puncher's chance against anybody if you can get up to that 7 spot.
Well, and I keep saying, or look, maybe Denver, I doubt it, but maybe Denver catches and passes the Warriors. And so Denver is the 1 seed in all worlds of wonder. But I've been saying this a lot. I think it is all about, for the Lakers, energy and focus. And the reason I say it's about energy and focus is because those are the thing in communication, actually. Those 3 things are what lead to generally a good defense if you have capable defensive players, and the Lakers have shown that they have capable defensive players, some guys significantly more so than others. But the Lakers had, before Lonzo went out, the Lakers had the 6th or 7th best defense in terms of efficiency in the NBA. And so if you can get that back, and that's going to require the energy, the focus, and the communication that I talked about. If you have that, if you have a good defense and LeBron, that's a recipe for success in the NBA. And especially in the playoffs where the game slows down and LeBron can orchestrate more of the possessions will be in LeBron's control. And then you guard. That's a recipe for success, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. So if the Lakers can start playing defense again, I like the Lakers' chances both of making the playoffs and then in the playoffs. Again, with the caveat, nobody's beating the Warriors.
Yeah. That's true. And that's fine. That's kind of, we went into the season accepting that fact and knowing that would be the case, but you can still make progress. You can still make up ground, but you have to be able to get into the playoffs. It's going to be critical, and it's going to come down to, you've just said it, and I've been saying it for a while now, that they have to play defense. If they can get their defense up to the level that it was at previously in the season, they've got a decent shot. If not, they don't. That's really what this is all gonna boil down to. You mentioned Lonzo real quick. Any update on him? Obviously a bone bruise.
Yeah.
Not good. Sounds like he might be out a little bit longer. Still expecting him to come back this season though. Yes.
Yeah, that's the latest that I've seen. I would expect him back this season, and we are seeing how crucial he is. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Lakers' defense is cratered since he's been gone. Those bone bruises are really tough, and to be honest, the 4 to 6 week timetable on a sprain of that severity
it seems short.
Is optimistic to begin with. So. He hasn't been practicing with the guys. No on-court stuff. I believe he's been doing some running on an anti-gravity treadmill, some running underwater, to take some of the pressure off. Right. But as far as I know, and I haven't seen him doing anything with the team as far as on-court work. So I would say he's still at least a couple weeks out, but I do expect him back at some point.
All right, Aaron, I want to talk a little bit about the young guys, but we need to pause real quick to talk about betonline.ag, our sponsor for today's show. Guys, in the NBA, there are tons of big matchups, and when you're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and the playoff push, every matchup is a big matchup. So with plenty of on-court excitement and drama happening on and off the court, you don't want to be left on the sidelines. Go where the action is at betonline.ag. CLNS Media and BetOnline are offering you a 50% sign-on bonus when you use our code CLNS50 with your first deposit. So all you have to do is you go to clnsmedia.com/win, use promo code CLNS50, and you get a 50% sign-on bonus today. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Aaron. So earlier today on Twitter, Laker Film Room, Pete Zayas and I and Cam Brothers, we got into a little bit of a conversation. It started with the Cam Brothers and Pete, and I kind of hopped in. And by the way, I saw you tweeting the other day. Apparently someone knows me in New Orleans, but not as much as they know Pete.
Well, yeah. It was actually, we were told, one of my buddies from back in LA went to Tulane, and he sent me a list of all the places I have to go check out in New Orleans. And so me and one of the guys on the plane, we were talking about it, and we said, we got to get lunch there. But he actually, he works for Ben. He works on the TV broadcast. And he said, I would love to, but I got to, and it's great. The place is awesome, but my call time's going to be too early. And I said, I'll pick you up a sandwich. So I waited through a lot of Mardi Gras traffic and got there, got a sandwich. And then I was like, I got to get to the arena. So I started walking to the arena and ran into some random people that live locals from LA and big Lakers fans. Didn't even know the game was happening, but I introduced myself, gave him my first name. Hey, I'm Aaron. And he goes, Larsuel? I listen to all your stuff. I said, yeah, I do the podcast, the official Lakers podcast. He goes, oh, is that the one with Trevor? I go, no, that's Lakers Nation. And then he said, it was Anthony. No, that's that's a different one. I told him mine, the official Lakers podcast again. And so he turns to his who we've now discovered is not his girlfriend. This is the follow-up point. It's not his girlfriend. I thought it was his girlfriend at the time. It is not. And he goes, oh, this guy is talking about me. This guy's famous. And as soon as I'm trying to tell, no, I'm not at all famous. He goes, wait. Do you know Pete Zayas? I said, I do. And he lost his mind. So, yeah, Coach Pete made this guy pretty happy.
Good stuff. Coach Pete is big in New Orleans. Good to know.
Apparently.
So we were chatting a little bit about just about what's going on with the young players on the Lakers, and there's been a lot of negativity around them, whether they're in New Orleans or wherever. There's been a lot of negativity based on all of the trade discussions. And so you had fans basically, look, there's 29 teams in the league that don't want to see the Lakers successful, right?
Correct.
As it should be, but really don't want to see the Lakers because they've got this history. So they don't want the Lakers to get Anthony Davis. So you've got this reason for a lot of people to kind of jump on the case of the Lakers' young players because those are the guys that are seen as the most valuable pieces on the squad. And we were having this discussion about the Lakers' struggles are being perhaps unfairly placed on the young guys, on Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball is not in there right now, but assuming that their issues right now are coming down to Ingram not being good enough, Kyle Kuzma not being good enough, And we were saying that it's probably a little bit more on maybe some of the veterans than just the young guys. And they've actually been playing pretty well, and we've been pretty pleased with what they've done. And I wanted to get your take on that. Do you sense that same thing, that a lot of people are kind of targeting Ingram and Kuzma and the young players because of that whole dynamic, because they know that those are the valuable pieces, and the hope is obviously that they aren't as valuable, and so that other teams will be successful. What's your take on that whole situation that I just did a terrible job of explaining?
No, and I saw another Laker film room shout out. I saw Coach Pete's tweet today, that the on-off net rating stuff. And,
right.
And
that's where it came from.
And the vets were down at the bottom of the list, and I think that. And I think somebody mentioned this. Well, I think one of you guys mentioned this in that thread, and I think it's right. I think that especially when LeBron was out, because it's like the next obvious thing, the young core has been a thing for now into its second year, and so I think it became oversimplified, and it was with LeBron is not playing, LeBron's hurt, and the Lakers aren't winning games, and so like the young core just kind of becomes a thing, and I think it's just overly simplified. In my opinion, the Kyle Kuzma's probably, after LeBron, has been the Lakers' best player. Maybe Lonzo, but he was hurt, and Brandon's had a really good stretch recently. Mm-hmm. So I think the young guys kind of are unfairly grouped together, like they are one entity, and B, are like too easy and obvious of a target. And again, it's obviously we're talking about online discussion. So this I'm sure will come as a shock to you, but I think there's a lack of nuance in a lot of those takes about the young guys, and not being as valuable as we would like, because I think it overlooks a lot of development that they have made year over year. And, they've all kind of been banged up a lot. Josh is banged up now, and Lonzo's been out, and B.I. and Kuz is back and his hip. So, yeah, I would say that the young guys are just like, because they are the next biggest name after LeBron, that they are just kind of the next target of, it's not going well. Right. So we'll blame the young guys. But I think it overlooks the fact that at least it stretches all of them have played very well individually at times. Yeah,
they've kind of fallen into the it's not a perfect crossover, but the Kevin Love role, where that's the player that kind of takes the blame, the three-headed monster of the Lakers' young core of Kuzma and Lonzo and B.I. has kind of been the focal point of some of the negativity. And yeah, I did mention that it really got simplified into Lakers aren't winning without LeBron equals the young guys aren't any good. And I don't think that was the case. Sure, they had struggles, but I mean, Brandon Ingram, I think it's easy to forget how young he really is. I mean, he's only, I think he's about 6 weeks older than Lonzo Ball. I mean, he was a super young rookie.
Yeah, correct.
So he really could have been part of the next year's rookie class very, very easily. He could have been a freshman that next year. So he's still very young. It's easy to forget just how much growing these guys are still doing. And I think Pete brought up a good point that these young guys, if you're not around the team, you're not watching the team every single game, and you haven't been following them for the last few years and following these guys, it's easy to miss their development and how far they've come and what's improved for them, because you're just taking a quick snapshot of them and saying, oh, they're clearly not good enough to win games. And I think that's missing a lot. And so I think that's a frustration for me and a lot of other people who are seeing this criticism of these young players, because I don't think they're getting enough credit for how far they really have come at this point.
Well, and talking about Brandon specifically, and I think he is probably the best one to talk about, because Lonzo too, but I think Brandon probably had, because of his draft status where he was picked, I think he had pretty high expectations, probably the highest expectations of the group, and he is now. We also have to understand, like, he probably, now that the roster has changed and LeBron is here, I would say he's had to adjust his game more than anybody else. So to just kind of look at it and say, he hasn't been as good as we thought or we wanted or whatever, I don't think is really taking into account the full picture. You mentioned his youth, but also he was a guy that thrived last year playing point guard, basically, for a lot of time when Lonzo was hurt. And now if you're adding LeBron and Rajon Rondo to already Lonzo, he's had to adjust his role, because he is probably best with the ball in his hands. So to not take that nuance into account and your age, et cetera, I think kind of misses some of the bigger picture with Brandon specifically.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that he's an interesting one because we've seen this. We saw it his first year at Duke. We saw it his first 2 years with the Lakers. He starts slow. He just does. And I don't know what they need to do to overcome that, but he starts slower. And then around January, his game really picks up. And we saw that again this year. And then he's really got his legs under him here in February. And he's turned it on. I mean, he's been impressive for the Lakers. I'm looking up, right now over the last 5 games, he's averaging 21 points, 6 boards, 3.2 assists on 47% shooting from the field and 74% from the line. Those are great numbers for a guy who's 21 years old. So
those are great numbers for anyone.
Yeah, those are great numbers for anybody, right? But he's 21 and he's doing these things but I think this narrative picks up steam that, Brandon Ingram's not any good when he starts slow at the beginning of the year. And then we kind of miss out on the discussion here towards closer to the end of the year when he really starts playing well. I mean, look at his last 2 games, 29 points, 27 points. He's really stepping it up. And I think they really deserve more of the credit and less of the blame compared to what we've seen, especially on the national level.
Yeah, and I think once there's any sort of narrative, and especially with Twitter, and it's one of the things that makes Twitter like so awful but also so wonderful, is that once any kind of idea gets picked up, and especially in a franchise that, as you mentioned, the 29 other teams and their fan bases love to see struggles with the Lakers and love to make fun of them. But anytime there's a little narrative and somebody can make a joke about it and it gets picked up and repeated and, sent out to the masses. So I think Brandon is playing well. You mentioned his scoring recently. But he had 13 or 14 rebounds against Houston, and is becoming a little bit more physical in the rebounding, setting screens, working off the ball, cutting and such. Still a little too much ISO for my taste in some cases. But yeah, I think it's a kind of a Twitter thing that is we the basketball NBA Twitter,
the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's really, there's like 1,000 of us in the world, but we speak for everybody, it seems like. And so I don't know that it's so much the basketball intelligentsia, feels the same way that Twitter does. But Twitter, anytime you can get a little narrative going and especially with the Lakers and make fun of something or talk down someone or something, I think that is kind of highlighted as opposed to, this is what the actual NBA at large thinks of these guys.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the take of a general manager is going to be very different than the take of Twitter, right? Where we're very quick to try to judge what a player is or what they can be. Especially I think most NBA media tries to avoid this, but you see these labels tossed out. This guy's a bust, or this guy is this certain type of player. He can't do these things. And we tend to focus on those things and just stick them to a player. And those things tend to last longer than they're actually true. And the same is true in the inverse, right? I mean, we saw Kobe Bryant picking up first team all defense honors even when he clearly wasn't playing defense at the same level that he formerly was. Sometimes labels stick with players for a long time, and for better or for worse, obviously. But this has been something that has really stuck with these young guys, that they're just not quite good enough, and the trade deadline seemed to kind of underscore that, where they couldn't get the Pelicans interested in a trade package. So it's something that I wanted to make sure we put out there, that hey, these young guys actually are performing at a high level, and they're doing some really impressive things out here for the Lakers.
Yeah, I guess now it's my turn for an analogy or comparison. Yeah. No.
Hit me with it.
No soccer this time, but narratives for NBA players, or just in life actually, are a lot like I kind of liken it to scouting reports in basketball, where you have to see sometimes they don't match up with reality, and it takes, once it is kind of cast a certain way, once a player is, all right, he's a shooter or he's not a shooter, right, or whatever's on the scouting report, when that changes, when there's new information, sometimes it takes a while to undo that narrative or to change that scouting report. So sometimes even in the face of different information. It takes a while for narratives to change because they've picked up so much steam. This guy can't shoot, or don't close him out, don't close. So oftentimes there's new information that belies the scouting report, and it's still there's a lag there, I guess is what I'll call it. That it takes a little while for reality, for the narrative to catch up to reality.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it does seem to do that. And, I look at God, the example that popped into my head was when the Lakers were taking on the Rockets, and Kenneth Faried knocks down a three.
Yeah,
I about fell off. I lost it. So this guy doesn't shoot threes. And then you go back and look, and you're like, oh, sure enough, he's slowly but surely he's adding the three to his game. It's a thing. Brook Lopez.
Yeah, I would say that was a thing on. I think it was a thing. That was a thing on Worshiper's Twitter last night. He made one or two last top of the key, and I think that has a lot to do with. Well, he can shoot it a little bit in Houston, where your coach tells you let it fly. I don't care if you miss, let it fly. It's going to give you some confidence. So that is a very good example. Brook Lopez is another one. Brook Lopez is not a shooter. Are you sure?
Yeah, now that's all he does really is space the floor and shoot threes, and he's doing a good job at it for the Bucks this season. Aaron, you know what? So I want to finish up with this topic because I think this is interesting. So you've been with the team, you've been traveling with the Lakers this season. So I'd like our kind of final topic that we're going to touch upon to be you and what have your experiences been like? If you can, I know it's dangerous ground here, I know, but if you can kind of give us a little peek into what it's like traveling with the Lakers, I think that's something that our audience would be interested in hearing about, and kind of, I'm sure there's some stories you have for us and some things that you could fill us in on that maybe the average fan probably wouldn't anticipate you would experience.
Well, it is incredibly cool. I'm very lucky to get to do it. And, what I have learned most from doing it is I've gained, not just for NBA guys, but just athletes in general, I've gained a lot of respect for what it takes for the guys to get ready to play basketball, right? We just flew in this morning. We get to the hotel and immediately there's a bus and the guys are going for a workout. And there's lots of times back-to-backs or traveling through all these different cities where I don't even know what day it is. I don't know what time zone I'm in. I sometimes don't even know what city I'm in. And I've expended no physical energy and I'm feeling beat up and dragging. And these guys are out getting ready to go play a basketball game at a very high level. So it's very cool. We are treated very well. The hotels are great. We fly around, take the charters, we get fed. Everybody's favorite thing is me posting the menus, the Laker menus on Twitter. Everybody, I don't know why everybody loves that so much, but it's very cool, and I'm very lucky, and it's also kind of been good for. I wouldn't say that I'm friends with any of the guys, but I'm definitely friendly with a lot of the guys. So being able to kind of see them as not what we see on TV or not what, you see on the basketball court specifically, but kind of getting to know the guys off of the court and how they all work together and what the NBA life is like, because it is a different life. And by the way, I used to work for the Blazers back in the day, and the world has changed. Everything, all the guys basically just stay in the hotel all the time and hang out. That wasn't the case, 10 years ago or so, but. Now, that was one of the things in coming back here with the Lakers and now traveling all the time that I was surprised. I all that, like, there's the LA nightlife. Undefeated. Yep. Yeah. I think maybe not for visiting teams and coming to LA, but from what I've seen, I think that's kind of overblown because, when some people ask me on Twitter a lot or text me and say, so and so, did the guys go out last night if a team isn't playing, if the team isn't playing well, and I say, not that I saw, I did, but I didn't see any of the guys out at all. So I had to check out Bourbon Street a little bit for Mardi Gras.
Yeah, I mean you have to when you're there, right?
Yeah, and of course I have to check out Beale Street this evening, see what a Sunday night on Beale Street looks like. So yeah, it's been really cool to kind of get to know the guys off the court and all the inner workings of everything that's going on, and a lot of the relationships with not the players but staff members and coaches and all the traveling party. It is very cool. We are very well taken care of, I can assure you.
If you were to go back to before the season started. Right. And mm-hmm. so you're getting ready to travel with the team and do all of these things. If you could hop in the DeLorean and travel back and have a quick chat with yourself, what would you tell yourself to do differently from traveling with the guys just to start off this season?
Hydrate. So actually, so when we check into the hotels, we check into the hotels when you get there, and sometimes it can be, today we got in at maybe 12:30 or 1 here, Central Time, local time. And there is a table. When you walk in, there's a big table with envelopes on it. Envelopes have everybody's name. You grab the envelope. On the back of it is a room number written there, and you just go up to your room, come down later and get your bag, or your bag will show up. But so at this table, there's usually a lot of water and little snacks and stuff that we can take up to our room. And I have decided now here recently that I'm grabbing 2 waters and 3 or 4 Gatorades because, all the flying, it takes a lot out of you. And then I have been known to get out and investigate the various cities. So I got to hydrate a lot so I can stay healthy, let's say.
That's some good advice there. I think that's a must. Got to make sure that you hydrate there. Grab extra waters, take some for the road, especially when the Lakers are going to be coming to Phoenix here in just under a week. It's not too warm out in Phoenix right now, but still got to hydrate when you're in these dry climates, right?
Yeah, that could be the reason I need to hydrate, or I don't get enough sleep and am out enjoying the nightlife in the various cities. That could be another reason too. But that's actually one of my favorite things is being able to go to all of these different cities, and how much time we have in these cities is kind of an underrated thing. We often get very little time. Right. So a lot of it's just kind of the airport, the arena, and the hotel. But sometimes when we have, a day here or there, kind of getting to walk around and check out the, whatever the food offerings are, whatever the city is known for, and see all these different places is very cool. It's a lot of fun.
Anything surprise you this season about about the things that the players have done on the road, or anything like that? Anything that you maybe weren't expecting?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting Lonzo. Well, he's not traveling with us now, but Lonzo. There's always the rookie duties, and right. So they have to wear these ridiculous, brightly colored little tiny backpacks, which is pretty funny. But they also, when we start a trip, so when we leave, there's this little aviation place that we leave adjacent to LAX that we leave from. And so the rookies, Mo specifically, has to bring donuts for the guys. And Zoe and Lance always want jelly donuts, and Mo never brings them jelly donuts. And his excuse is that the app that he uses to get the donuts doesn't have that as an option. So they've been trying to convince Mo that he has to go in. And I think he should have to go in as a rookie. He should have to do whatever the guys ask. So,
yeah, that's his job, right?
Yeah, so I'm surprised. I'm still surprised that Mo has not been getting the jelly donuts for Lance and Zoe, so they won't eat them. So that means sometimes they make their way back. If there's enough, they'll make their way back. I'm trying to lose some weight, so I have to stay away. But because there's no jelly donuts, some of us in towards the back of the plane have been allowed to have them.
So Mo is really incurring the wrath of Lonzo and Lance, but he's trying to help you guys out.
Well, that's how it appears. And so I know Billy Mack is always really excited when the donuts make their way to the back. So, and I sit across the aisle from Michael Thompson. So it's right at the very last row. So they don't make it. They generally don't make it all the way back to us, but. Yeah, I know Billy Mack, who's 3 or 4 rows ahead of us, is always pretty excited.
So they don't make it past Billy Mack, is what you're saying?
Generally not. Generally not.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Aaron, hey, man, thanks so much for coming on here and joining me and talking all about the Lakers. And
one more surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah. Something that struck me was, and continues to, is everywhere we go, there are people there are people waiting for us to see the Lakers brand and LeBron brand, and now actually Kuz and Zoe, but like the combination of all of that. There are Laker fans who do a great job at the arenas too, coming out early. But at the hotel, when we get it, doesn't matter. We can be 3:30 on a Wednesday morning that we get to somewhere, and there are always Lakers fans out there, to greet us, to say hi, want pictures and autographs and the whole thing. Sometimes even like yesterday, I guess it was. Yeah, yesterday in New Orleans outside the hotel, there was 150 people probably when we were leaving. So that like every time I see that in Charlotte, there were people like climbing up on light poles.
Wow.
So anytime as we're getting to the hotel or getting on the bus to go to the arena, I am always struck by how strong Lakers Nation is and how well the fans travel and really want to see the guys. So that always strikes me. Sometimes it feels a little weird to me. I'm going to be honest, but it is really cool to see. And so shout out to Lakers Nation and Lakers Nation for traveling so well.
Well, that's awesome. That's great to hear. I mean, the Lakers obviously are the most popular team in the NBA. They have the biggest worldwide fan base, and so that's great to hear. The Lakers fans get out and travel and show up in force to support the team, even on the road. Aaron, man, thanks so much for hopping on here with me. This was awesome. Glad to talk about everything going on with the Lakers and what it's like traveling with the team as well.
Anytime, brother. You got it. No, you got the number. Anytime you want.
All right, that sounds great. Guys, make sure you keep heading over to LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers, to keep updated on everything going on with the Lakers playoff chase and everything else going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. Check us out on YouTube at Lakers Nation, where we are at Lakers Nation on Twitter. You can find us at Lakers Nation Official on Instagram. Don't forget, I host the Lakers Nation post-game show. After every single game, we jump on Facebook Live, do a full recap, interact with all the fans. It's a ton of fun. So come join me on there. And don't forget to go follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. And of course, don't forget to follow my guest today, Aaron Larsuel. Follow him at Aaron Larsuel on Twitter. Great follow on there as well. All right, guys, we'll be back next week with a new show. Till then, see ya.
And I definitely have to go because the TV in my hotel room just turned itself on. So we're not in OKC, and there may be some ghosts.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're in Memphis right now, right?
I am in Memphis.
It's supposed to be a haunted city, so good luck there, man.
Thanks.
All right, Aaron. Thanks a lot, man. Have a good one.
All right, brother.
So that's where we'll wrap up. Hopefully the Lakers players' hotel rooms aren't as haunted as Aaron's is. Till next time. See ya.